Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hope wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, I hope everything is great. I hope you're doing fine. I hope you and your family are in great condition, and also in great health. This little show or video I'm doing is in connection to the series that has to do with common sense. So, and also it's a plea to all Africans around the world, in this country, in the diaspora, wherever you are, especially in the United States. I am doing this video because I think it's long overdue, and I think it's time that we start to think about this. I am going to be looking at doing this video from a lens of an African who was fortunate to have come to America during the Jim Crow era. So that's the lens I'm taking this video from. Again, this is part of the Common Sense series that I'm doing to throw light on certain issues, certain things that I think we ought to be thinking about. So as Africans, I think this show is specifically for you because I think our relationship here in the United States is not getting better as far as connecting with our brothers and sisters that are living here in the diaspora, our African American brothers and sisters. So I want to throw you back as an African living in America in 1920 or 1915. And I just want to know, as an African living in America at that time, doing Jim Crow in this country, I want to know, where would you be? Would you be on the other side of the aisle, or would you be with your people in the community where you're look-alike? So that's the question here. I've often think about this because I think some of us that are in this country today really don't know what life was for our African American brothers in those era, or that time, so to speak. It was a different time in America, and if you don't know, you can always do your research. You can just research, do research looking at America in the 1920s, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I just want to know, if you were an African that came into this country during that time, during the time of Jim Crow or segregation, where would you be? Would you be with your African American brother, or would you be on the other side of society? That's what this video is about. So the reason why I'm asking this question is because most of us Africans that are here, this generation of Africans, we really don't know the history of African American and how they started from slavery all the way to the Civil War and Reconstruction and Jim Crow, into up to now, into this, up to, let me just say, the 21st century. So there's been a lot of sacrifices that they have put up just so it's possible for you and I to be here. That's just my opinion. But it's also my plea to you, because I think we can be doing a lot if we are trying to get to know them, if we're trying to encourage them, we're trying to work with them, we're trying to do things with them to bring them together with where we are, instead of just looking at them as different. So that's the main reason for this video, is more of a plea to our African brothers to start to think, to start to work together in unity, togetherness, so that our brothers that are here, African American brothers and sisters, can see that we are with them. We stand with them in all solidarity, because at the end of the day, we are all the same people. We all go through the same situations. When any of those situations arise. So there are key points that I want to focus on that I think that are very important to us as Africans living here in the United States, and maybe for those of us living in the Caribbean, South America, and Europe, Australia, wherever we may find ourselves, that are very important. So, for example, we have children in this country, if you're in the United States, that will never be African, even if we try to make them feel like they're African. It's not going to happen. They will never be African because they're born here. And sad to say that in as much as they know that they're born here, and they do not know the other side of them, which is that they are African American. Sometimes I even try to tell my kids, just to at least show them my own culture, that they are African to some extent. But even with that, they sometimes tell me that they are not African, they're African American. And I can understand that. So one day I try to dig into it to see why they think that way. And I learned that the reason why they think that way is because when they go to school, that's what they're told by the teacher, that they are African American. So that got me thinking. I'm saying, if they think they're African American, and I'm thinking part of them is African because they're constantly with us, they're constantly with our community, they go to our various events, they hear us speak, they know us better, and yet they still don't feel that they're African. So you see where the problem is. So I started thinking about that. So that's the reason why I'm doing this video too, because I really think we are doing them a great disservice when we are not trying to, we the parents now, are not trying to mingle ourselves with African American or get to know them. And I think we're doing our children a great disservice by not trying to come together with them. I think if we try, it's better than not. But I think if we try to do something, we ought to do something. I mean, I'm talking about us parents, African parents in this country. So this is more of a plea to you for us to try to do something, at least initiate something that would bring about unity with our African American brothers and sisters. If you think about our situations, we are no different than our African American brother. And if you want to look at our historical content and historical background, I don't think it's any different from the African American story. If you try to look at some of the things that brings us together, and some of our historical, those figures, those individuals that play a historical role in the creation and the development of Africa, you will always find African American in the picture. So, I'm saying this to say that African American has always been involved in the history of Africa. It's not new. So if some of us are in this country and we see them on the street, or at work, or at school, wherever we find them in our neighborhoods, it's always good to at least try to show them that we care about them too, that they're part of us, that we're all the same. I came to this realization when I finally learned and did my research and learned that African American has always been involved in the history of the continent of Africa. So today, they are almost as sidelined, and when we are not trying to get closer to them, to know them, to make them feel like we're all the same, that they are brothers and sisters, it just exacerbates the problem and just make it worse. I remember myself coming to this country and being called all sort of names. One of the most painful and hurtful names that you can ever call an African was African Booty Scratcher at that time, and and I didn't really understand, but I just felt it was derogatory because there were people laughing at me. There were people saying all sort of things, you know. And at the same time, I didn't really know the history of that stuff. But when I did my research, I learned that it was derogatory and it was just a stereotypical views of Africa, you know. And so my role was to educate, and in order for me to educate my African American brothers and sisters, I had to do research. So if you're in this country and you don't know much about African American culture, their history, their background, how far they've come, that story that analysis that I gave you about you being in this country in 1930 or 1920 or 1930 would help you understand how much sacrifices they've made and how much of their time they've put to help not just Africa, but all over the world. They've been trying to bring about change for African, for people of color, black people. You know, I'm talking about black people. So yeah, I'm doing this video just to throw some light on it, and I hope that for those Africans that could put themselves in living in America in 1920, 1930, where would it be? I can tell you for a fact that you wouldn't want to be anywhere but where your people are, which is African American. So yeah, I think we ought to start to think about coming together. We're just, if not for you, I mean, because you are different, you know, but for your children. One thing I would say is, if my son or daughter grows up and is somewhere in this society working at a bank or a teacher somewhere, nobody would know if they're Africans if they didn't tell who they are, if they didn't say their name. They would look and behave just like African American. So although we're the parents, we're some of us are first generation of Africans in this country, you know, we have to think about them too. Even if I know they know our side of them, they know that they are Africans, but they don't know the other side. And they know they are African, but they also know that they are African American because this is where they were born. And I want to say this, I know I'm an African. If anything should happen to Africa, it will pain me more because I was born in Africa. I'm Africa, Africa is me, you know, because that's where I was born. And if something should happen to this country, my children will bleed. They will feel more pain because this is their home. This is where they were born. But if they don't know the other side of them, I think we, the parents, are doing them a great disservice. So this is my argument. So for the sake of the children, I think we need to do something. We need to do something. We need to come together. We need to put away all of our indifferences, all those things that we think we hold against African American, all of those. I mean, I think dialoguing is good if we can sit and dialogue, if we can sit and talk to each other, we can sit and talk to one another instead of just talking at each other. I think we can make a huge difference. We can make so much change if we can dialogue about some of those things that are holding us back from uniting or from coming together. We can start to discuss them. You know, I think we Africans need to make that move. You know, for that reason, I started an organization here in Ohio specifically for that, just to see what I can do. Because I believe to whom much is given, much is expected. Our generation have to do something. Our generation has to do something. I'm also talking to the older Africans. I'm also talking to the young Africans. You know, you've come across African American. Forget about all the stereotypes about African American. That's not true. I mean, if you're talking about crime, it's less than 1% of the people that are engaging in crime that are African American. And that's true. The news don't show you everything. But if you look at statistic, you're looking at statistic, it's less than that, you know. And African American are not lazy. If that's one of your stereotypes, not true. So I think it's time we need to start to think about them. We need to try to better our relationship with them. We need to, just for the sake of our children, that's my argument, for the sake of our children. We need to do things to have fun. I think we should have fun. We need to just to release some of the stresses and traumas that we face in our history. All of us are traumatized people. Whether you're African or you're African American, you're black, across the globe, we're all traumatized people. I think we need to just come together and have one day where we can just have fun. We can eat each other's food, drink each other's wine or whatever beverages you put together, and just love on each other and just have fun. You know, I was of the opinion that maybe the church would be able to do that, to start to bridge some of the gaps. But I also learned that the churches are more divided than you can even think about. So I think it's incumbent upon us, each of us. You don't have to be in a church. You just need to do your own part. You just need to do something as a human being, as a citizen, as a black man, as an African American, as an African. We need to do something to come together for the sake of our children. You know, at the end of the day, our commonality is our color. You know, our color is our commonality. I just think we should come together. And try to know each other and try to better our relationship. There's just so much benefits that can come with that when we come together. You know, sometimes I see there are a lot of Africans going to Africa, and I'm seeing the governments of Africa is doing their best to bring African American back home, but some of them don't know that there are issues here. You know, I don't know about the Caribbean or South America with black people and in those various communities down there, but I know here for a fact in the United States that there are issues between African and African American that we don't talk about. And in my view, I think if we can solve some of those problems here, we can start to get to know each other here, it will be easier for us to say African American come to Africa. And I think they would do it in huge number without fear, because now they know us. You know, we have a relationship, you know, and so I think we need to start to think about that, you know, because if they leave here and go to Africa, they're still going to be faced with the same problem that they are faced with here with us, you know. So I think we need to better our relationship here, and then we can say come to Africa. And I think that's my own approach, you know. My own approach is to say, let's have fun, let's break bread here, let's get to know each other here. Whatever our indifferences are, let's discuss them, let's settle down. If I have to say I'm sorry, I will do that. If I have to, whatever I can do. If you have to say sorry, because Africans also feel that African American don't treat them right, and then African American feel that Africans do not respect them too. So either way, and to be honest with you, as an African, what I know now, I think African American are the most toughest human beings on the planet. To have gone through what they've went through and to have sacrificed everything just to be part of this society and don't feel value or don't feel no appreciation for all their work and effort and talent and heart that they've put into this country and the world. African American have done so much. I'm not even going to go to the history of Africa, because a lot of Africans don't know the role that African American play in the history of Africa. And they were in this country, and they were going to Africa trying to educate the people, trying to change the mindset of the Africans. They could have stayed in the situation, but they still left. Even the situation that had to do with Nelson Mandela and all the freedom movement in Africa, African Americans were behind that. In the heat of Jim Crow and segregation in this country, they never forgot their brothers. There are countless number of African American individuals that did that sacrifice their job, their livelihood, just to stand up for Africa. Don't take it from me. You can do your research. So all we can do is give back to them. For those of us that are in this country, we need to do something. We cannot allow this to continue, the division between us to continue. We have to do something. Reach out. Let's reach out to them and make that change. You know, I don't think if we reach out to them, they're going to say, hey, we don't want to talk to you. I don't think so. But we can reach out one individual by individual, group by group, community by community to make that change. The cycle cannot continue. And again, it's for our children. Our children will not belong to Africa. Even if they go to Africa, it won't be a place for them to stay. You know, even us that come to this country, after a certain amount of time of staying here, when we go back to Africa, our community feel that we're different. They call us all sort of names too. One of the most common name is JC. Just come. So you know that. So because our thinking is changed, everything about us is changed. So we don't feel like we are part of the society that we once left. So think about you, who was born in Africa, and you're treated that way. You know what I mean? So, and just think about your children going back home. What do they have there? What kind of role would they be playing in that society? How accepting would they be? But if we can start to unite over here, work on those things that are separating us, it's easier for our children to find a place in Africa. And our children, African American children, or even the African American community themselves. You know, I think if we can unite over here and start working, it's easier for us to lobby our governments in Africa to make this change for African Americans. Instead of one country saying, come here. I know Ghana does a great job. I appreciate what Ghana is doing. I know my own country, Sierra Leone, does a great job as well. But that's not enough. But I think we can have a greater impact if we are working with our brothers and sisters here, African American. And if you're in the Caribbean too, in South America, Australia, wherever you are, if you can do your own little part, or if you can do whatever it is that you can do to start to bridge that gap between you and that community, whether it's black Australian or black European, or I'm talking to Africans now in these various places around the world. If you can do that, that's a great thing. I think we need to reach out to our people. You know, I'm not saying reaching out to them to make other people's lives miserable, but just starting to talk to each other, starting to know each other, starting to know each other culture. Because I think each of our communities has something to give to each other. African American has something that they can give to our community, and we have things that we can give to them too. And I think if we can work together and share these ideas, you know, we can start to improve our families too. We can start to improve our communities too. And I think that can bring about respect for our people. Because when you look now, most communities, most race of people don't respect our people because they see this huge disunity. So we need to come together. And I believe once we'll start to come together, we can impact the world in a better place. And I think our unity can give some respect to Africa. Now, if you look at Africa today, the reason why it's not respected across the globe by other race and other civilization is because of this unity. So for those of us that are here and know better now, we have to do something to change that. You know, I don't think someone would tell me not to talk to my African American brothers and sisters, or to even have a meeting with them. I don't think so. I don't think we need a whole race of black people, African, in this country to do that. I think we just need one or two people that have love for our people, love for our community, love for this country where African Americans are, in the Caribbean, in South America, Europe, and in Australia, wherever they are, black people, you know, and I mean wherever of these places that Africans are, if you can just form a group and start to talk and start to work within your community, start to do something, I think it's a great step forward. So I just wanted to do this video as part of my Common Sense series, because I'm doing the Common Sense series because I think everything that we do is common sense. We use common sense a lot in our daily lives, in some of the activities that we do. So I find a lot, I personally think that common sense goes a long way, you know, if you can use common sense, because most of your environment alone teaches you so much. So I want to believe that African that I was talking about can do this. That African can reach across the aisle, because that African that would be in this country in 1920, 1930 would understand where they belong. And I think if you're in this country today, now, you should know that that's where you belong. You belong with them, and they belong with you too. You know, I was in New York when there was a shooting in New York with one of our African brothers. That's my first time seeing African American taken to the streets in protest. They didn't know that brother, you know, but they felt pain in their heart for the way he was murdered, the way he was shot to death, you know. So if you're in this country, man, you may not know it until something happens to you. But African American has always fought other people's battle. That's the thing I can understand. They would leave their own fight. You know, I think God just make them different. God just make African American different. You know, I pray to God the day, the Creator, the day I see us talking to each other. Us, you know, that's the best thing you can do as a human being, to bring other people together that look like you. You know, I just want us to be respected once again as a people. And I think by coming together will give us respect. Coming together, working together, we can benefit so much from each other. I see so much. We're losing so much, Africans. We're losing so much, man. Let's come together, man. Let's love on each other. Let's have fun. You know, we can teach them our culture too. They can teach us our. Some of us, we think we African American don't have culture. They do. Do your research, you see. They do have culture. Those kids know. My kids, they know. They hear the music better than I do. I don't think music is a form of culture. They know the culture better than I do. You know, and I want them to know it more. I want them to know the other side of them more. And I think all Africans should be thinking that, because those children don't belong to Africa. None of our children, they're not. Believe it or not, you can do whatever you want. They're still going to be African American. So please, my fellow Africans, I'm talking to you. I know you're hearing this. I'm just pleading with you to do something in your own way. You know, do something. Reach out. If you have comment, you can post it on here. I would like to know, to do something, you know, because if we don't do something, this is going to continue. It's going to continue until we're going to leave this world, and our children are going to be left here. They're going to be continuing the same cycles. So let's do something to bridge that in our own way. You know, religious people, I think you can do that too. You can help. I think this should be your fight. You should not go to church and look in your pew or look in your church and don't see an African. Or if you're African, you go in your church Sunday, you don't see African American, and all you see is yourself, and be happy. Because you're supposed to reach out to them too. That's what Jesus said we're to do, reach out to one another. You know, let's reach out to our own. Let's love our own people. Because once we can come together, guess what? We're going to be respected again. Because when we come together, we're going to have a plan. And that plan is to improve our lives and the lives of our children to come. And I think we have things to share with each other, to give to each other. African Americans have things to give us, and we too have something to share with them. We wouldn't know that until we start to engage each other. Not like saying, hi, how are you, if you're at a job or work or school, but I mean getting to know the person at a different level. And I think that's what we need to do. And I think if you're a leader in the African community, you need to step up too and do something in your own way. And I think the great Creator will reward you, because that's what the Creator wants to see. You trying to bridge that gap, bring community together. We can start, we don't need to start big. We can start little by breaking bread with each other. You know, we can start like a black party where we are just having fun, you know, getting rid of some of the stressors, some of those stress, trauma from our history. Because our history are no different. The only difference is we're in a different setting, and African American are in a different setting. But our stories are the same. You know, we cannot continue to allow this disunity. You know, Africa has issues, but let me tell you, the Creator is going to raise up leaders that's going to take care of the African problem. And guess what? The leadership we're looking for is coming from here. You know, again, I want to say this. We need to do something about the African American situation too. Us Africans. Our forefather did things to them that was wrong. So we, this generation, has to turn it around. You know, I believe in my ancestors. I don't doubt my ancestors. Because other race of people don't talk bad about their ancestors. They do everything their ancestors says. The Chinese do. They still practice everything that was passed down to them by their ancestors. The Indians do. They still practice what was passed down to them from their ancestors. The Europeans also practice what was passed down to them from their ancestors. You know, the Japanese, all these people still practice what was passed down to them from their ancestors. So why can't we do the same? You know, we still need to value our ancestors, but I think we need to go back, take them back to Africa and talk to them, talk to our ancestors on their behalf, so our ancestor can bless Africa again, can forgive the continent for what they've done to the African American. And if you don't know this, when those African American, those black Africans, they were not African American then, but when those Africans that were sold into slavery got on those ships headed for the Americas, right? The ancestors got on those ships with them too. So Africa, until you try to do something about this, you like to look, we like to look and say Europe, right? Europe has their own thing. But we, Africa, has to appease the gods. There are many gods. Even the scripture said there are many gods. But the Creator said only Him should be worshipped. But there's still many gods. You know, our ancestors are with them. We need to go to them and say, please forgive the continent for what they've done to our brothers and sisters, and bring them back home. And you see, when you do that, Africa will find its way. Yeah, true. All these leaders, they're confused. That's why they can't even get their act together in Africa. But we can start to do something here. Me and you can do something to bring them, to bring ourselves together, you know, for the sake of our children. You know, They are going to be African American regardless of what you think. Please, let's do something. Let's bridge that gap. There's a huge gap and it's unnecessary. Let's go back to Africa. Don't take them to Africa in vain. Take them to Africa after you've settled this place. This is where we live. For those of you that have children here, let's come together here. Then we can lobby our governments in Africa and say you need to do something about the plight of African American. That's my approach. I'm not saying other people's approach. Some people just want African American to come to Africa. But I say we live here. We need to amend our relationship here. We need to work on our relationship here. And then once we've done working with our relationship here, we can tell them to come to Africa. And I tell you what, it's simple as that. If you have a relationship with someone, from your job, they're African American, they know you, both of you eat lunch in the cafeteria, you talk about personal things and stuff like that. If you have a party and you invite them, they show up. Simple as that. But if you don't have a relationship with them and you invite them to a party, they're gonna hesitate. They're not gonna come. This is human. If you go to a party, this is a simple experiment, and there's an African American at that party, and there are other race in there, and it's just you and the African American. Where would you go? You're most likely gonna reach out to that person, even if you don't know them. But because both of you are black, you see the commonality. So that's just to say to you that when you see somebody that looks like you, the chances of you engaging them is 100% because they look like you. You have commonality. So if you can do that at a party where there are other race of people, just one individual that look like you, why can't you do that now? So let's reach out to our African American brothers. African, I'm pleading with you. I'm asking the Creator to touch your heart. Wherever you are, when you watch this video, I want the Creator to touch you. Only the Creator can make change in you. No human being can do that except you allow someone to control you. But I don't think anyone is going to tell me not to talk to African American or engage. But I also know that I cannot do it by myself. There are other people out there that can do that by themselves, bring everyone together. But we can inspire others to do something like that, to do the right thing. Our generation needs to do something. For those of us that are younger, and I think once we start something, our elders in the community, they will come along too, because they're going to support us. So again, I just want to thank you for watching this video. Again, to whom much is given, much is expected. The Creator has blessed you, so you have to give back. We have to do something about this. This cannot continue to happen. We cannot continue to be distanced from our brothers and sisters that are here in this country and across the world. We need Africans that are in this place need to do something. Okay, so I want to leave you with this. I do it in all my videos. The greatest thing that can happen to any human being is not the day you were born, or the day you got your first car, or the day you graduated from high school or college, or the day you had your kid. The greatest thing that can ever happen to any human being is the day you discover yourself. Because when you discover yourself, from that day on, everything becomes clear to you. You will find your way if you're in the darkness. Thank you, and I hope you and your family are doing well. And I pray that you stay blessed, and I pray that the Creator touch your heart to see that there's a need. And when there's a need, we have to step up and do something. We cannot continue to see this and allow this continue to happen. And for the sake of our children, we have to do something. We have to reach out. We have to try to bring our brothers and sisters together. Thank you so much and have a blessed day. Stay blessed.